phone, not believing it for a while.
Wow.
Um, I think I set my goal that year for like $1,600, but it was for I think it was a milestone to reach like 20,000 as a community raise.
Yeah.
Like it was a kind of a significant number, and we raised 20,000. And
Wow.
we did that since I was the newbie, I got the
The 2 a.m.
4
or
a.m.
oh, okay.
4 a.m. to 8 a.m. block.
Yeah.
So, but thankfully it was right before Lupo went on. So I was the next to last block.
Yeah.
But still I was the graveyard shift,
Hey.
So if we raise $1,600, I'm like, that's incredible when 90% of normal functioning humans are asleep.
Right.
But of course, my amazing community set their alarms for 3 in the morning or whatever and came and showed up, and we raised $20,000.
She's a beauty.
Welcome to Tarducks, a podcast for content creators come share their stories, experiences, and advice. And today, I'm super excited. I have all-time Brianna. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So glad you're able to take the time and come on and share your cool story.
Cool is definitely a way to describe it. It has been a bit of a journey.
I'm sure. So what we do here on the pod, we start off with sort of 3 random questions to get flowing. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So we were just talking earlier about traveling and whatnot. So if there's one place you would recommend the most out of every place you've visited, what is the one place you would suggest everyone should check out?
If you're able, the Galapagos Islands. Whenever I was living in Ecuador, that was like my spring break. I've always been a biology nerd, so I might be a little biased. But it is just like untouched beauty, like you have never seen it. All of the islands are unique. You get to see, animals and wildlife and flora and fauna and all of that. That's just out of this. It doesn't feel like it's real.
Oh, that's so cool. All right. So long day of travel ahead of you. What are the must-haves you have when you're going on this trip? Are a good book, podcast loaded up, music list, videos? What's your, like, I gotta have this before I head out?
I am a big reader. Like I put away I'm actually about to hit my 2023 goal, like 3 months early. So that feels really nice of 52 books. Cause I was like,
Wow.
oh, a book a week.
Mm-hmm.
I've read way more than that. So my Kindle, I don't go anywhere without my Kindle. And I only do the Kindle because then I can have multiple books rather
Yeah.
than bringing a whole bunch in my book bag and weighing it down, because I've done that before and that's not very
Yeah.
fun.
All right. And the third question, favorite concert you've ever been to?
Favorite concert? Stone Sour was my favorite
Okay.
concert. So Corey Taylor it's his side band. Corey Taylor is one of the artists from Slipknot.
Oh, okay.
And he does a lot more, his side band is a lot more kind of chill
Mm-hmm.
in that genre. And I don't know if it was just like lack of marketing or advertisement, but there were like maybe a couple hundred people in this House of Blues in Cleveland.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like so intimate, and I was like, I never really expected to be, staring in Corey Taylor's eyes as he sings not Slipknot stuff to me.
Right.
Just a complete difference from the Slipknot guy
Yeah.
rather than the Stone Sour guy. It was wonderful.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's something special when you go to those concerts, and it's like it ends up being like a small venue, and it's really like you see this person, like, let me go grab a beer, come right back to my spot. I'm not fighting people, and it's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like much more my vibe for any type of outing.
Yeah.
Is just hang out and, meet people, have a chance to talk to people rather than like having to have both feet shoulder width apart to hold your stance.
Exactly. Absolutely. All right. So who's Brianna before you found the go live button? What's your background?
Oh boy. So I am first and foremost a scientist. I'm from a super small town in Ohio. Went and I knew I wanted to pursue medicine of some sort. And went to Ohio State for my undergrad and got a biology degree. At that point, I was kind of on the fence about going to medical school. So I said, okay, I'll go do a master's program at University of South Florida in Tampa. in anatomy, and that way I'm still I have my feet on both sides of the line and I can figure it out. At that point, I had been working in a children's hospital in Columbus and
Mm-hmm.
absolutely loved it. I was working in the NICU with the little babies.
Yeah.
Um, and I was doing research at that point, and I kind of realized two things very quickly. One, that I liked research, and two, that I would never get away from pediatrics. The first baby that I got to hold
Yeah.
in the NICU, it was just like that sold,
Yeah.
signed, and this is my fate here. So I went, did my master's program, and unfortunately it got cut short because of COVID, or at least the in-person
Mm-hmm.
aspect of it. So finished that up remotely, moved back to Ohio, and actually got another job kind of intermittently, not with children. And it was just kind of that like missing piece of, I love what I'm doing, but I need more.
Yeah.
And I was looking on job listings, and a brief thought was, oh, I should apply at St. Jude. And I was like, I'm not going to apply at St. Jude. Like, I can't get a job there. Are you kidding me? Like, it's not just like some random children's hospital. It's
Right.
the children's hospital.
Exactly.
And luckily, I must have been having a confident day, because I was like, I'll give it a try.
Mm-hmm.
So I submitted an application, heard back, went through a super crazy long application process, and ended up getting a job I found out in February of 2022, moved down March of 2022, and started mid-March. So I've been about a year and a half. I've been doing
Wow.
research with sickle cell.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
It's like your
And it
perfect
is
job.
about and it is about as magical as like you could
Yeah.
possibly. There is no, oh, you get used to it. And what's really cool about it is even people who have been here 10 times the length that I have are kind of share the same sentiment of like,
Yeah.
it's not lost on us how awesome of a place it is. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that people just assume,
Mm-hmm.
because humans settle in pretty easily. It never settles. You get into your routines,
Yeah.
but there's never a time where I walk down the hallway and it doesn't floor
Yeah.
me.
Oh, that's so cool. It's got to be tough though. I've got 3 kids, and I know when I had to take them to the hospital or whatnot, it is the toughest place just to see your child, and it's just. But at the same time, it must be so rewarding when they come in sick, and you get to see them walk out, and they're healthy and everything sort of goes back to normal.
Yeah, it's like a double-edged, situation where yes, it is the most heartbreaking, terrifying, miserable situation for everybody, but it doesn't feel like that as a place.
Yeah.
Um it's like it's like a vacation when the kids get to come there. I
Yeah.
mean, every kid that you see when they see their nurse or the doctor or whoever they've been seeing forever, they're excited. It's like a family friend, it's like the
Yeah.
fun uncle that you get to see. Um and everything about St. Jude does is with a purpose of, instilling hope and creativity and fun, and making a very not fun process as easy for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And just giving kids a chance to be kids.
Yep.
I mean, I think about my 8-year-old nephew, because I don't have children myself, so I
Yeah.
think about my nephew and my friends' kids, and it's just I think about what he worries about day to day, and then I think about what some of these other kids worry about day by day, and I think it's important to, kind of shift that focus back to what video game am I going to play today,
Right.
rather than what's my treatment going to feel like today.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um, so yeah, it's definitely hard, but the benefits definitely outweigh
Yeah.
the kind of emotional cost most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, speaking of like, having, making it fun for the kids, like the nurse comes and whatnot. I actually had Zach from Gamers Outreach on to talk about what they do with their sort of their
Mhm.
gaming carts and whatnot. And it's just like you can just see the happiness and joy he when he's talking about, bringing these things in to make that negative hospital experience something, is like normal, and just, try to have some fun and get smiles on their faces. It's so cool.
I have never been a part of something that's just so uniform in its purpose.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what part of the company structure, what person you talk to, everybody is just guided by this just like pull to do good for the kids and for the family and, give them a chance to have to worry about only the video games or only the, oh, well, so and so took the doll from me or all of those things that's what kids should be worrying about, you know?
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
Um, so it truly is a magical place, and it's very much a pinch me, I'm here every single day I go into work. So,
Excellent. All right. So let's talk video games. Where did video games start with you?
so video games have been a part of my life my entire life. I got my first Game Boy Advance in back in 2000, early 2000, Christmas of 2000. My brothers are twins. They're 13 years older than me. So of
Okay.
course I always wanted to be included in their PlayStation
Yeah.
and everything. I was the 13 years younger little sister, so I didn't get included as much, but I learned very quickly how to use the be competitive and
You have
do
to.
well in the time that I was actually included. Um, but yeah, so I did, the Game Boys. I played on their N64 and their Atari and all of
Yeah.
that. Duck Hunt was like one of my favorite games of all time with and Dig Dug. Oh my God, I remember the hours I spent on Dig Dug. Um, but then I think it really kicked up. I bought an original Xbox and then an Xbox 360. Um, it really, really picked up in the Halo and Call of Duty days. That's where I
Yeah.
started to play with friends. That's kind of where I started to have a love for shooters and kind of the more competitive side of
Yeah.
things. Um, and yeah, I stuck with Xbox. I actually started streaming from my Xbox.
Oh wow.
In 2019,
Mm-hmm.
I was living down in Tampa by myself for my master's program, and I was like, at that point, I had already been integrated into the Lupo community. Spent a ton of time playing and
Yeah.
watching. I was like, there's a Twitch app on the Xbox. We'll figure it out. So I was just sitting crisscross applesauce on my bed, streaming
Oh
from my
wow.
Xbox, with the little Connect
Yeah.
camera and everything. And I mean, for whatever reason, some wonderful people chose to hang out and keep
Yeah.
showing up. So I got a PC shortly after, and here we are
Oh
almost
wow.
4 years later, which is crazy. It's crazy. So yeah, I discovered I obviously got caught up in the Fortnite craze.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful time where it wasn't what are we playing tonight, it's what are we doing in Fortnite tonight.
Right.
And then I found Destiny in July of 2020. So I just passed 3 years of playing, which
Mm-hmm.
I was super late to the game. But I caught up in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to talk about how many hours I've put in the 3 years, but that's really where I found the core group of friends that I have now.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be more grateful. I'm super involved with the Bungee, with everything that Bungee
Yeah.
does. And obviously GCX and stuff has strong ties to the Destiny community, and I just love that game, love the people that I get to play it with.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you mentioned the Lupo community. So how did you end up, getting involved in that? Sort of finding them, or like, were your brothers watching streamers? Or you just like, oh, let's check out. I like this video game. Let me see. Watch some people play it.
I started watching. I don't know how I found Twitch. But I started watching probably right at the start of Fortnite. I don't know if maybe honestly, I probably was looking up something about Fortnite and
Yeah.
saw like, oh, this person streams on Twitch. I found the whole gang pretty early.
Yeah.
Lupo was one of the first streamers that I ever watched. And did a lot of lurking. One, because I didn't really know how it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Two, because it's a bit intimidating to jump in.
Yeah.
And just kind of lurked around. But then I at that time I was still going to Ohio State for undergrad, and I happened to see a tweet from our student activities board that said it's like a little convention that they were doing in some random building on the campus, and they said Dr. Lupo will be
Oh, no
doing a
way.
meet and greet. And I was like, "Huh. Okay." I mean, like I had been watching him for
Yeah.
quite a few months at that point. Hadn't really talked in chat, so I was like, I don't like it'd be a little weird to like show up and be like, "Hi, I'm all time Brianna." But he recognized me. It was a super again, I don't know how I luck out with these events that like must not be super well marketed,
Yeah.
but it was a super intimate little gathering. Got to meet up with him. We sat and watched Super Smash Brothers being played for a while, like in the corner of a room. Like it was so weird, but had to have a really, or was able to have a really good conversation with him. And, that gave me the courage to start talking a little bit more in chat. Found a couple really, really good friends right
Hmm.
away and actually found my fiance in his chat.
No way.
Um, yeah, so he and I first started talking in his chat in like early July of 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we're engaged now, so obviously
Holy
something went
cow.
right. Yeah, so I owe pretty much all of the really, really close bonds that I've had for the past 4 years to his chat. So
Oh,
it's been wonderful.
that's fantastic. All right, so there's a lot of good stuff we're going to jump into there. So we'll get to that stuff, the GCX and your fiance who is a Canadian, which is pretty cool because I am as well. So, but back to streaming. So that first few times you went streaming, you had people coming in. There's nothing really prepares you for that experience. Like what do you say? How do I act? And everything like that.
Yeah, and I joke about it a lot, but there is some seriousness to it. I don't I would have never pictured having the personality for streaming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I if you give me a platform to talk about something like medicine, I'm very good at it, but
Mm-hmm.
like anything about me, I'm just kind of like, it's all right. So it was really, really funny, and people who know me, who have known me growing up, they're kind of like, "Oh, you stream?" And then, they come and they watch, but I think that has been something that's worked for me in my community is I try not to make it about me. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like a welcome to my stream. It's just like I call it like it's a house party and I'm the host,
Yeah.
but I want you guys to intermingle. I want you guys to enjoy the party.
Yeah.
I'm just the one whose house you're hanging out at, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Um, so once I started to kind of shift away from like, oh my God, there are sets of eyes on me while I'm doing this and making weird faces when I'm trying to win a gunfight or whatever it may be, to they're just hanging out, becoming friends,
Yeah.
and I just get to witness it and have a good time. That changed a lot of the nerves for me into something
Yeah.
that got really, really exciting. Um, so I streamed a lot in my first probably 6 months. It got very addicting, which was probably not great considering I was in master's program full time, but
Yep.
we made it work.
And people I've guests I've had on it. So people have described their chat as or their stream as like the local bartender, like the local bar.
Mhm,
You come in and just hang out, and it's not about, like you said, it's not about you. It's not about the show. It's just a community.
mhm. And it's crazy how deep those connections run.
Mm-hmm.
We we've been kind of fostering this community for a really, really long time, and last GCX was great, but this past GCX was like so many people finally were able to come.
Yeah.
And it was just seeing these people that it like I know my mom would always ask, like, is this weird? I'm like, for maybe half a second.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it feels like you are just running into the arms of people that you have known your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there is no difference for us, online friends they're just my friends. It's not a difference. So
Yeah.
we were able to do a big Airbnb
Oh
right across
wow.
the street. It was just like we had like 5 days of just existing in a house all together
Mm-hmm.
and eating breakfast together and playing drinking games, and we took our Switch and played Super Smash Bros. And just stuff like that
Yeah.
that it was like, "Oh, this is what we've been able to build,"
Yeah.
and we've had quite a few relationships start up in our community and just super cool, like there will be a handful that come to my wedding or that
Yeah.
are in my wedding party, and it's just wild. If you would have told me 4 years ago, I would have probably rolled my eyes at you,
Hmm.
but here we are.
Yeah. So a couple of things off that one about, about having people from your community come to your wedding. I had Markstrom on, who's a, variety streamer, Tarkov
Mhm,
streamer as well. His best man was somebody from his community that just
mhm.
over time, they just, hang out and just chat. And like you were saying, let's people hang out. And I think that the dynamic has changed or shifted where it used to be, oh, let's go out to the bars and you meet everybody. But, with COVID and everything that happened after that, people got comfortable at home and hanging out, in your communities for hours every night. And eventually bonds are going to, develop.
Yeah, I mean, I would do anything for for these people, they are the best humans that I've ever met, and it's crazy to think that our paths likely would have never
Hmm.
crossed if it weren't for very, very specific conditions that led us
Yeah.
to the same Twitch chat
Right.
or that put my stream on their recommended whatever, It's these are people that I can't picture living without, and I very well may have had
Yeah.
it not been for video games.
Well, and the other thing that's really cool, I think, about this is nobody's from the same sort of background. You have all different backgrounds
Mhm.
coming in, and that's the other cool thing about that. And maybe it's because it's faceless at first, so there's
Mhm.
no judging. There's just, hey, I like this game, I like this stream, or like this community, and it just grows from there.
Yeah, I think kind of starting off on an equal foot takes a lot of the stress away. It doesn't completely eliminate it, of course, but
Right.
it takes a lot of the expectations of what I should be in this dynamic and just lets people at their core be whatever the heck they want to be. And
Yeah.
I think that's really beautiful to kind of open up that discussion and that ability to just be friends and
Yep.
connect over video games.
Exactly. So now, how would you describe your stream? Somebody's coming in to watch you for the first time. What are they expecting? What are they in for?
um a lot of lightheartedness.
Hmm.
For all of my competitive side, I tend to lean more into kind of just more of a laid back thing. I was actually talking to Stream about this last week of I do miss like I streamed Fortnite a lot back in we did kind of the more I guess try hardy things and I loved it. I really really do. I like the competition side of things. But Destiny has been wonderful because it can be I'm going to go run around and work on absolutely nothing while I talk to chat.
Yeah.
I don't know if how much you know about Destiny, but they added fishing to the game with this past
Oh,
expansion.
really?
It's about as funny as it sounds, but it was like one Sunday morning, my only plan was to drink coffee and sit and talk with chat and fish and like ask like burning life questions, like anywhere from super in like deep questions to would you rather have arms for legs or legs for arms? Like it was every range of the spectrum, and I think that that's really really cool. Destiny enables me to say, listen, I've had a really long day. I'm gonna run around and work on absolutely nothing, or I'm gonna get five of my closest friends and we're gonna go do a raid, or
Yeah.
we're gonna do whatever. So I guess variety is definitely the kind of the name of the game for my streams, but it is centered around just having a good time.
Yeah.
I'm not going to dedicate 4 or 5 hours of my evenings to not having a good time.
Right.
So you won't see me playing something that I don't enjoy. And if I'm not enjoying something at the time, then I will be switching.
Yep.
It's just welcoming and laid back and pretty ridiculous a lot of times. My group of friends never makes it boring.
Hmm.
So that helps. I definitely sometimes let them run free with the and create the content for me.
Oh, nice.
Just place a little stream marker and say, "All right, I'm gonna clip this and clip this later and post it."
Nice. And now I think I saw something, Destiny stream and something to do with Bob Ross stream.
Yeah, so I dress up like Bob Ross and I paint, according to, which is so it started out very, very early on years ago. I had never painted on a canvas. I am
Hmm.
admittedly that side of my brain does not work. I am a science person.
Right.
So it was kind of a joke of like, oh, if we hit this sub count or whatever it was. I'll dress up like Bob Ross, like full wig and
Oh
goatee
God.
and blue button-up shirt type deal. And the first one turned out better than it probably should have. And it quickly became one of my favorite things in the world to do.
Oh nice.
This one is actually one of my least favorite ones behind me, but it was drying. And there are a handful of people who have my paintings in their house.
No way.
I've given them away for charity now.
Oh
Um, it's like a 2-3 hour absolute crazy every stream there's like, what did I just come into? There's
yeah.
always a new viewer like, what am I seeing here? But it started out as something ridiculous, but it has been, like I said, truly one of my favorite things to do
Ah,
on stream.
that is so
Um,
cool.
yeah, it's I've surprised myself. I've learned a lot.
And now, when it comes to streaming, what are some of the toughest things, hitting that go live button?
Mm, I, like way too many people, struggle with a lot of imposter syndrome of, um, why would anybody want to come watch me play? Because
Right.
I'm not inherently fantastic at any game. I think that I am above average, but I'm not, you're not coming to watch me for skill.
You're not a head cracker,
No,
Yes.
no. So I feel like streaming, there's so much of the you need to be on one end of the spectrum or the other, and I feel like I kind of ride the middle a bit
Hmm.
too much. I enjoy it because that's just what comes naturally to me, but there's always that like, why would anybody want to come watch me play PvP? I'm not doing anything.
Right.
Um, so that the imposter syndrome sucks, and it's a lot of you think about things that you know logically
Hmm.
you shouldn't be. Like you think about, "Oh, my numbers were 3 viewers less than what they were yesterday. What did I do wrong today?" And it's like, maybe some people just went to dinner tonight, or their kids are sick or whatever it may be. But it streaming puts you into that kind of frame of mind of overanalyzing and
Hmm.
and micromanaging all of your little things.
Yeah.
And that's been a lot. It's an up and down journey.
Yeah.
Some days I hit the go live button and I don't even think twice about it. And other days I'm like, ugh,
Yeah.
I gotta do that today. And I think the conversation has opened up a lot over the past probably year, which is wonderful. But it definitely should be talked about more. I
Yeah.
think, and it's really inspiring when bigger creators kind of talk about it. They're like, we still get nervous. We still think about
Yeah.
what if nobody shows up, because it's such a human emotion. It's such a anytime you put yourself out there, and it's inherently just you
Yeah.
that people are going to be showing up for. Of course, that's going to make anybody nervous.
Right. Absolutely. And one of the creators I had on before talked about that, saying, like, oh, do I want to do this? Do I want to go live? And he said, you know what? If you go live, nobody watches you. Nothing, you've lost nothing.
Yeah.
It's just nowhere to go but up from there.
Yeah. And I think once you can kind of shift that frame of mind for the majority of days, it alleviates a lot
Yeah.
of kind of the unnecessary stress of what if nobody shows up.
Right. And I just, having so many guests on, and it's not an easy job for the ones that do full time. I don't know how they do it.
Mhm. Yeah, it I was gonna say I'm very lucky that I don't do that full time. I'm lucky that I don't have that added stress, I guess
Right.
is a better way to put it, because I can't imagine. I do it now just in kind of internalizing the kind of hurt feelings of it. But when it's your lifeblood, that's completely different.
It is.
And there's the whole like streaming is not just hitting the go live button.
Right.
There is so much stuff you have to do before the stream, during the stream, after the stream. And people don't realize that, especially if it's your way of life,
Right.
your what you earn your living by.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so I have all love, all kudos for people who do it full time, because it's crazy, and I do it less than part
Yeah.
time.
Well, and I think for streamers that do full time here in the States, there's that extra, you don't have health care. You don't have, the vacation things that are, it's just, yeah, it's a tough thing to get into. And if you can pull it off, like that's pretty amazing.
I agree. I agree. And I think that just reiterates the whole need to just be kind. You
Yes.
know, I just be nice. I go in and tell the streamer you hope they're having a great day and be a wonderful contributing member to chat, whether that's lurking or being nice to other chat
Yeah.
members or being nice to the streamer. It goes such a long way because once chat takes a turn for the worse, then that makes the day take a
Yeah.
turn. And I mean, that's just as bad as having a bad day at the office.
It
So
is.
I think it's so important to just always have that at the forefront of like content creation is not easy
Yeah.
and it shows up in many different ways. It rears its head in different forms.
Yep, absolutely. So now going on the opposite side of that spectrum, what's been sort of the highlights for you since you've, found Twitch and got involved with GCX and whatnot?
Um, so obviously the charity side of things has been more of an impact than I ever thought that I'd be able to make. In every asset of my life. It's not just like, oh, only in my little streaming side of the world. Like I think that it's absolutely incredible what we've been able to do. And I mean this coming year, I my community should be able to hit $100,000
Oh my
raised. And
God.
it's just I think about it, I'm like, I'm just this like girl from small town Ohio
Yeah.
who I think about it in terms of running St. Jude for a day
Right.
or what once you start to kind of be buried under that how much money that really
Mm-hmm.
is, I there's so much pride for my community is on the smaller side, growing very
Mm-hmm.
quickly, but on the smaller side, but what an impact we've made,
Yeah.
and I think that just it hits me a lot, the quality of humans that I keep
Yeah.
around me, or that, I guess, for whatever reason, like I said, found me and chose to stick around. That is easily my favorite thing. And kind of on the same note, not just the charity side, but just I see them, you know, in my chats, in my Discord, in other people's chats, and they're just good humans all around.
Yeah.
And to be able to in the worst that this sounds awful, but kind of claim them as one of my
Mm-hmm.
own, as part of my community, it's so nice to be able to, see all the ducklings go out
Right.
and spread good through a world that everybody needs a little bit more of.
Yeah.
Whether that's through charity or through just being a wonderful member of a chat.
Yeah.
Um, I'm very, very proud that I have managed to, for whatever reason, foster something like that. So,
It's really cool. It's amazing.
like
And
I'm gonna
does that the fact that you said you think this year you guys could raise $100,000? That's crazy. That's so
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and I think about like my first stream, my first charity stream that I ever did, we raised just over 2,000
Yeah.
in 16 hours. And I think about GCX this past year when we raised over 20,000 in 4 hours. And it's just the exponential growth
Mm-hmm.
of it and the scale at which I can operate is growing, and it just I
Yeah.
can't wait, to see get us into the 6 digits and then get
Right.
us,
Yeah.
I have no intention of I will continue to show up for as often as these companies will allow me to show up, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh, that's amazing. And now, if somebody's going to hit that go live button for the first time, what kind of advice, would you have for them?
I think, and I know, I mean, speaking from my experience, I think that it's easy to get bogged down by all of the things that go into it. You need emotes and you need alerts and you need this and this and this. You, you don't need it. Um, see if you even like it
Right.
before you start like, oh, I don't have a game or I don't have a PC that can run this game and stream it on ultra settings. So kick those things down all the way to low and go live and just see if
Yeah.
you enjoy it. See if you like hosting that party. Um, you can always improve. My general thought whenever I went into streaming was any profit that I make from streaming will go back into
Mm-hmm.
streaming. So as my stream grew, so did the quality. And it was kind of this act of reciprocity of it just kept getting better.
Yeah.
But again, I started streaming from I started streaming in 2019. That Xbox was 6 years old at the time. with the standard Connect camera
Yep.
and just facing
And
toward
the
my
built-in
my bed.
microphone. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even wanna go back and look at what those looked like, there is one clip that I hit probably one of the best snipes I've ever hit in Fortnite, and it froze right when it
Oh,
happened because my game couldn't or my stream couldn't figure it out.
oh.
It's like and now I look back on it and thank God I started because if I would've just kept putting it off,
Mm-hmm.
I would've never probably never even gotten a PC because it would have never opened up that world for me.
Yeah.
Um there's nothing wrong with wanting to get some things set up,
Yeah.
run a test stream or two, but you don't need to go buy the 10 emotes and have the best of the best graphics. Go on Paint and write your little logo, whatever logo you want, just start.
Yeah.
That's the only way you're gonna get a feel for it. If you love it, then you delve further in.
Exactly.
There are some people who talk themselves into it after months and go live once and they're like, "Oh, I don't like that. That wasn't for me."
Yeah.
It's like, well, now you don't waste the time or the money or the stress if you don't know.
Yep. And if even if streaming is not for you, there's other ways you can contribute and help, whether it's, being mods or just being part of communities.
Mhm. Absolutely. I think a lot of people underestimate how fulfilling it is to just be a part of a community.
Mm-hmm.
Humans are social creatures. We want our tribes, we want our little packs of people who make us feel welcome. And when you type hey in chat, everybody's adding you and saying, "Hey, how are you?"
Right.
And that's very easy because the bar is pretty low in terms of just show up and be a positive being and you
Yeah.
will find people very quickly.
Yep.
Show up in a streamer's chat 2 or 3 days in a row with good vibes and they will remember you forever.
Yeah. And now you hit something, come, sort of like a house party. What was your first time that big, like the big party showed up? Somebody raided you. Nothing prepares you for that.
So my first ever big raid was Lupo.
No way.
So so he terrorized me into getting Tarkov,
Oh God.
as one does. I had never played mouse and keyboard. So
Oh
I learned
boy.
mouse and keyboard on Tarkov. That night, he raided me while I
Oh,
was learning Tarkov
that is
and mouse
evil.
and keyboard. um, so that was the first time where I was like, and I mean, it's always nerve-wracking, but it was like, oh my God, there are hundreds of thousands of eyes on me right now, and
Yeah.
and I don't know what I'm doing. I can't even find the F key, Um, but it was just one of those where it was like, you say it once to chat, you say, listen, what you just saw and what you're about to see are complete opposite ends of the spectrum. Don't judge me. And I mean, God, there are some clips that came out of that stream that are like still some of my favorite. For whatever reason, somebody told me to go to factory first.
Oh
Maybe
God.
that's why I still hate that map.
Yeah.
But but you just kind of have to laugh at it.
Yeah.
Do be authentically yourself, regardless of whether there's 10 or 10,000 people watching. Um, that doesn't magically make the nerves disappear, but if you give yourself a second to freak out and then say, "Hi, my name's Brianna, and I'm this. The follow button's right there, and I'm gonna get back to the game," and that's
Yeah.
kind of what you do.
Exactly. Oh, that's a great story. All right, so let's jump over to Destiny. So you're my first Destiny creator that's been on. Amaze is we're going to get on sometime. We just matter of getting the schedules right. He is
He
so
is a
busy.
wonderful human.
He
Yes.
is, isn't he? Every
Uh-huh.
day seeing his just positive vibe tweet. It's so nice to see.
Yes, he is. I have had the pleasure of meeting him at GCX, and interacting with him, virtually, and he's
Yeah.
just a wonderful force in like I said, in a world that needs it. So,
Yeah. Absolutely. So, how did you find the game? What was your path to Destiny?
so my now fiance and I were looking for a game to play together. And he had been playing Destiny probably for like a year before me. Um, he didn't play back in like the Destiny 1 days or anything like that. But yeah, he had probably about a year on me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I said I forget how I was describing it, but I basically said, like, "I want something that's not stressful like Tarkov,
Mhm.
but it's still a shooter, but I can do multiple things and blah, blah, blah," and he said, "Have you ever tried like, thought of Destiny 2?" I was like, "Every time that I look into the game, I just get overwhelmed by how
Yeah.
much there is." Um, because at that point, Destiny 2 had been out for 5 years, 5 or 6, yeah, 6 years at that point. Um, so it was just it was just one of those where I was like, "I'm not touching that. That's way too much."
Yeah.
And so we started really, really slow. I did not stream it for the first probably 5 months, because I was a little scared, because it's such a vast community of people
Mhm.
who know the game inside and out more than I ever will be able to learn. Um, so yeah, we started playing. I Luckily, he connected me with a group that we did all of the raids that were in the game in, like, a day and a
Oh,
half,
wow.
which was, like, once I did that, I was like, "Okay, I am in with both feet. I might as well just full send everything
Yeah.
else." I started streaming shortly after. It was intimidating. It was not quite as intimidating as streaming Tarkov,
Mhm.
but intimidating for a whole other reason of just feeling so out of my element.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, it quickly became my primary stream game, and I feel like I know a decent amount of the of the game now. But still always plenty to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what is the hook it has on you that, thousands of hours later, you're still, smiling and enjoying the game?
I think because of, like I was talking about earlier, the ability to kind of pick my day's adventure
Mhm.
of, do I want to, do a full scale raid, or do I want to just run around in the open world and do nothing?
Yeah.
Um, Kind of that variety is enough for me to be able to find my path in any given day, and the group of friends I have. I would still play Destiny. I would not have over 3,000 hours in 3 years if I didn't have a group of friends, you know? Um, and I mean, I lucked out that I somehow found my niche in the streaming directory.
Mhm.
It was just kind of everything kind of aligned to make that the game that I was going to full send.
Yeah.
I still love other games for sure, but that's my main.
And prior to Destiny, what was sort of your main game you were streaming? You talked a bit about Fortnite. Anything else you were streaming in that time frame?
So I started on Fortnite and Minecraft. Um, Kind of for the same reasons, loved playing with friends,
Mhm.
loved to just, you could put me in a Minecraft world and say go build a 4 walls and a roof, and I
Yeah.
could spend all day doing it. Um, but yeah, and then I picked up a little bit of Tarkov after I was super overwhelmed with it, so I stopped streaming it for a little
Mhm.
bit because I really wanted to learn, and that was a really fun off-stream time for my fiancé and I,
Yeah.
because he also streams, so it was just a nice, like, that's what we'll do after we end our streams, and we'll hang
Right.
out and talk about our days and
Oh,
go run
nice.
scav raids, you know? Um, and then I've streamed quite a bit of story games. The Witcher 3 is my favorite game of all time. Um, that I loved to, like, start my mornings with coffee and Witcher. So I played through all 3 of the games on stream. Um, and it will probably make a comeback eventually. I actually just re-downloaded it last week for another playthrough for whatever reason, but with all the time that I have.
Yes.
But yeah, I can usually find fun in any game. There are a few games that, whatever, I won't
Yeah.
play probably again, but if you said download whatever and let's play it today, I'd be like, "Okay."
All right.
Oh, and I've streamed a lot of Apex as well.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
if what I've found with a lot of the creators that have been on, they're, who they start with the game and they are nervous to switch because of the impact on viewers. I don't get that vibe from you, that sense. Like, you're like, whatever I want to enjoy, I'm going to play, and everyone's along for the ride.
Yeah, I got very lucky that my growth early on was pretty stable, regardless of what I was playing, and that was a lot thankful to raids from Lupo
Yeah.
or friends who rated me in many different categories. I I could boot up stream with anything today and have a lot. right now I am in a partner push, so I have been just head down with
Yeah.
Destiny because it is the best thing. But if I really, really, really did not want to play Destiny, I would not.
Yeah.
So I it feels nice to have that, but it is a very real thing of if I were to go live with The Witcher 3, I would accept the fact that my viewership would be cut in half.
Yeah.
And for people who average thousands and rely on that for their way of life,
Mm-hmm.
that's not an easy thing to do. You
Yeah.
know, it's not it takes a lot to branch out and to
Right.
try and fully dedicate yourself to building a community in that directory.
Yeah.
Because you're very aware of it, but it still hits you like a gut punch when you see that viewership.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just mentioned about, the partner push. So are you doing the partner push for the achievement? Like, yes, I can do that. What's your goal for the partner push?
Um, I think it is just kind of a lot of it is validation,
Yeah.
admittedly. We're working on 4 years of we've gotten kind of to this point a lot of times in the past, but I was a full-time student or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I was moving or whatever. It always felt like I had a bad timing of it.
Yeah.
And then you take a couple days off and your momentum's gone, let alone a
Absolutely.
couple weeks or whatever it would be. So I mean, I remember there was one like right before a major finals week where I was like averaging way beyond partner numbers and then I had finals, so I obviously am going to be doing that for a week and a
Right.
half. And you come back and there's a third of the viewers and you're like, "Well, that feels like I'm back to square one."
Yeah.
And you're not. You're still going up, but when you go from straight up to a 45-degree angle,
Uh-huh.
it sucks.
Yeah.
So I think now where I am in my life, I'm settled. I have my normal day job. Whereas student life is a bit more up and down.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I just kind of owe it to myself to keep trying and
Yeah.
seeing what I can do. Partnership does open up a lot of possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always going to be just the hope of continuing to bring more people in and
Yeah.
have more opportunities to I think we've got a pretty good thing going, so I'm always going to want to show more people and
Right.
welcome more people in.
Yeah, because the people I've been on that have come on and they've gotten their partnership. They say, you know what, once you get it, it's not like it's a life changing thing. You got to keep going, and
Right.
that seems like just it's validation. But I had a content creator who's focused on like F1 racing and NASCAR, Ash Vandalay, and for her it was validation, but also it's something that people who don't know streaming brands and whatnot can see. Oh, you've got the purple check mark. Okay, so that is something, and now you can get more deals and things like that with it. So that's the other thing it'll bring to the table.
Yeah, I mean, and when it comes down to it, I devote a lot of time to streaming and having those opportunities. I feel like is, of course, we all want that.
Yeah.
I I have my full time day job and my big girl job that I've worked way too long and hard on keeping and getting. So that will always take first place. But I still like to spend my evenings streaming, and I'm going to give it my all.
Absolutely.
Especially with charity and especially with giving people a place to hang out after work.
Yep.
So whatever way I can do to improve that, whether it's by getting a purple check mark or convincing a brand to take a chance on me,
Yep.
that's what we'll do.
Absolutely. And also the other side of that too is not having the check mark hasn't stopped you from being successful, raising thousands of dollars for charities. That's just really amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's again the imposter syndrome of it all. It's very hard to be like see that like empty space beside my name and not be like I don't belong here.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. So back to Destiny. So like you were talking about earlier, it's intimidating when you first, jumped into the game. So, such a large game, with Destiny having such a, dedicated community, what do you think sets it apart from, other games? and it's been able to stay at a really large high number count for so long.
I think the fact that we're, 10 years in and there's this live action feedback loop of changes in the game, and like a live service game is very difficult to maintain,
Mm-hmm.
let alone for a decade.
Yeah.
Um and I think that it's just this, it has just kind of become a second, like a way of life for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's people who love the game, have loved the game, and probably will always love the game through its ups and downs.
Yeah.
There's the running joke of, oh, I hate it, but I'm still gonna log on. I mean, every game has that, right?
Absolutely. Oh
Tarkov
God,
is
yes.
the number one number one game for that. Of, oh God, it's awful. Can't wait to play it tonight.
Yeah.
Um, but all jokes aside, it is the most kind of hearty game that I have ever played. And even Fortnite in its prime, you had Fortnite, and you had the arenas, and you had some tournaments, and you
Yeah.
had playing with friends, and that was pretty much it. There was a whole bunch to it, and of course now with Unreal Engine and everything with the creative, it has popped off way beyond anything that
Yes.
I can wrap my head around. But um Destiny is so multifaceted, and there are people who come into my chat who have never once stepped into the PvP side of things, or who
Yeah.
have never once stepped in the PvE side of things. Or there's people like me who it's just like, oh, we'll see what I get into today. Um, and kind of that create your own adventure, I think, is really, really, that's what allows it's the most customizable experience that
Yeah.
I've ever seen in a video game. And the fact that it's always changing. I mean, it's getting patched every week, and there's these huge overhauls of systems and sandboxes and all of this, that I just think it keeps it fresh enough to keep you interested.
Yeah.
And the story and the gameplay, yeah, the story team and directors, they deserve all of the awards that they could possibly get, because this storyline, this 10-year journey that's
Mm-hmm.
actually coming to an end in about 5 months, um it has been just this beautiful link web of things that have been contributing for
Yeah.
well beyond my time spent in the game. So
Yeah, something I never even thought of, you being the first Destiny creator coming on, is like it is a really good game to stream. Like you said, you do PV if you want, or
mhm.
if you just want to lay back and chill, or PvP if you want to, go that route, and you're still in the same game, leveling up. And then, if you really want to chill, just, grab your fishing pole.
Yeah, exactly. It's, again, just that create your own adventure for the day that is beautiful for streaming, because it relies, I could change it on the fly based on
Mm-hmm.
my mood, based on who I have around in chat or which of my friends are around. It gives me a lot more opportunities that I've never had in other games,
Yeah.
which I think keeps me coming back.
And now, do you have a favorite class or subclass you like to run with?
Yeah, so I am a warlock main through and through.
Mm-hmm.
I usually use void a lot more than the others. I admittedly have been denying my Titan especially some love. So I need to get my Titan caught up prior to the Final Shape expansion early next year, but it's just so hard because I love warlock.
And now, the other piece of that's, a big part of this game are the cosmetics for Destiny. And, so with various armor sets and shaders, do you have a favorite look to, you'd like to, yeah.
Yeah, so I am blue everything. I mean, like I have my blue phone case and my blue water bottle, and so they actually just released a shader a few months back called Sinking Feeling, and it is like black and blue, and it's kind of, the blue kind of shimmers and moves, and it is just like the most amazing thing. So I tend to go with like a sleek black and blue whatever. But during holidays like Halloween
Yeah.
and Christmas, I'll do holiday looks and Christmas looks. Or
Okay.
sorry, Halloween looks and Christmas looks.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
just have fun with it.
yeah.
Now I have friends who every single time they join up, they look different. I have like my few go-tos, but yeah, some people change it every day and have fun with it. It's fun, you
Yep,
know, and the joke is
absolutely.
that destiny is the end game. So it's just this like
Uh,
this running joke that like if doesn't matter what you do in the game as long as you look good.
yeah,
So,
as long as you got the drip, I guess, right?
yeah,
Oh God.
absolutely.
So now, so Bungie is the developer of the game. They've been known to interact with the community. What's your opinion on how they've worked with various community members and creators?
I think that even 3 years ago, I would have never pictured a developer so entwined the in the community. I think they communicate so well. Um, even right now, they unfortunately have been having issues with a lot of like DDoS attacks
Yeah.
and just the openness of like, hey, this is what's happening. We don't really know, but we're figuring it out. Anywhere from that level to hey, we put this fun like dog in the tower, you can go pet it. Like it's just a really fun community that gets stuff done when it needs to. And I have been so incredibly lucky being involved with the Bungee Foundation. Um I was a community focus back in May, which was like still like a pinch me I'm dreaming thing. Again, because there was that kind of imposter syndrome of I'm super new to this super big community and
Right.
don't look at me. But but they do such a good job at looping in both the casual player and the streamer
Hmm.
who plays for however many hours a day. And they do a lot of good with the Bungee Foundation and a lot of different outreach and just overall human rights advocacy and it's just a wonderful
Yeah.
group to be a part of.
Very cool. And how would you describe the Destiny community?
I think the Destiny community is a lot of people who are passionate about the game in whatever aspects that may be.
Hmm.
Um and there is a vocal minority of people who it makes you a bit nervous to approach sometimes, but for the most part it is just people who just like to play the game and have a good time. And again, if you're drawn by Bungie, you're drawn by, you know, human rights for all and
Hmm.
humanitarian efforts and charitable efforts, and I think that that automatically makes you a good person.
Yeah.
So I think at its core it's good. It's a bunch of people just wanting to play a fun game. And I am very lucky to be surrounded by only that.
Yeah.
That's both intentional and a bit lucky. Um and I just think I think the community is what you allow yourself which parts you allow yourself to be drawn to. But there's so much good of it out
Yeah.
there. So I think having that ability to connect with people like that is just astounding.
Yeah. Very cool. So, I know I keep bringing this up, you being my first Destiny creator. So, when I've had other female creators on from Tarkov and Fortnite getting their take, and Daisy and COD, I get sort of various sort of mixed messages. COD was not a good experience for a lot of the females that have been on. Tarkov has been really opening. What's your take from a Destiny standpoint, and how from a female creator has been for you?
I think overall being a woman in the gaming space is tough. I
Yeah.
mean, it to like no bars there. It's not easy. And there are definitely days where it hits a little harder, whether it's I mean, my name is all-time Brianna, so there's no doubt that I'm a girl,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
um and there's a lot of some days where I'll go into PvP and I'll be getting teabagged or whatever for
Yeah.
absolutely no reason. And 99.9% of the time it's like, okay, whatever. That has been happening since the COD days.
Yep.
There's that thing that people always say like, "Oh, you wouldn't have survived in the COD lobbies back in the day." I did. I did. I've been playing COD since, I was probably way too young to be playing
Right.
COD.
Yes.
But um it it's just there are some days where that 0.1% where it's like, God, I'm gonna go play Minecraft or
Yeah.
something. Like I just
It's 2023. Why is
it's
this happening?
and there are some days where I'm feeling spicy and I'm like, all right, I want to 1v1 that guy, you know? I should not be talking that kind of shit because I'm not that good. But, the competitive side in me is
Right.
like, all right, bring it on,
Yep.
I'm going down swinging. But it it's one of those where, again, vocal minority of people who have way too much time or rage on their hands.
Yeah.
But for the most part, everybody else on the side is that's where you really see the good people rise up even more
Yeah.
to kind of, drown out the bad.
Mhm.
And it kind of switches this really ugly thing into this really beautiful thing of, hey, we see that this is happening and that this makes you super uncomfortable, so we are going to completely flip the script. And I love that. I love
Yeah.
whether that's other women who lift each other up, or men who are advocates for
Yeah.
us. I think that that's probably the most inspiring thing. You see clips of people in whatever game of a woman getting harassed, and you hear this man from who hasn't said a word the whole time that says like, "Hey, that's not cool."
Yeah.
And that's all it takes to
Mhm.
completely flip it around. And I'm very lucky to have people who would literally go to war for me. So
Nice.
I on the 0.1% days where I'm like on the verge of tears over something completely
Yeah.
trivial, it's nice to kind of have people who have my
Yeah.
back. Because yes, it is trivial, but it's the idea behind it. And I
Yeah.
think that's what a lot of people try to brush off. And until that's something that you deal with every single day, you don't get to tell me that it
Right.
doesn't matter,
Nope. Something that I found was really cool that I had Nixie on, who's a Tarkov creator, and she created a group called the Chadettes, which basically is an
Mhm.
all-girl Discord of Tarkov creators who, sort of like, got to, sort of keeping an eye out for each other. They get, one, jerk shows up in a chat. Next, it's sort of like, hey, heads up. And it's cool like that. And then I had a creator from DayZ on. They had the ladies of DayZ. And it's the same thing. It was neat to see that there's, you know, people getting each other's backs.
Yeah, and the many, many good apples in the Destiny community, it's the same way,
Yeah.
where I know that if somebody would step out of line, there would be 100 more people taking their place and saying, "No, no,
Nice.
no. You don't belong here."
Yeah.
And I think that that's again, it kind of helps flip the script from something that just ruins your day to something that like makes you cry happy tears, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. All right. So, what inspired you as a Twitch streamer creator to raise money for charity? Like what made you like, hey, you know what? Let me take my platform and, do some good with this.
I think kind of a very similar inspiration to going into medicine. It was my mantra has always been like, if you have the ability, you have the responsibility. So when it came to my career in medicine, I knew I could learn that stuff, so I should. Very similar to, for whatever reason, people gave me a platform, so I'm going to do as much good as I can with it. That whether that's, fostering an open forum for people to discuss and make friends, or whether that is opening up a charity stream or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Um, it just felt, I mean, I was lucky because I was exposed to it through the Lupo community before I was ever even a streamer,
Oh,
but I
okay.
knew very early on that like that was something that if I ever streamed, that was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Um, I think that I mean, I fully expected in my first charity stream to, maybe raise $100. Luckily we blew that out of the water and have been ever since. Um, but I would have still been happy with $100 because that's 100 more dollars raised for a charity that didn't have it before my stream.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I just think, why not, right?
Yep.
If you raise $10, it's still 10 more dollars. And if my platform kind of facilitates that,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm doing what I need to do.
Yeah. And that was St. Jude's the charity because of what you found with the Lupo community, or was it St. Jude's because that's where you work and it's like, oh, this is a great place and raise money for that, or both?
A little bit of a lot of things. So I did my first two charity streams were actually for the Cerebral Palsy Foundation because that was my first job. I worked in a motor developmental research lab,
Mhm.
with toddlers with CP. So that was like, that will always be at the core of my heart.
Yeah.
And we've raised over 12,000 for that, just those
Wow.
specifically. Um, and then I can't remember. At that point, I got invited to do Bungee Foundation streams, which is they do a lot of um children's health for especially like Seattle children's,
Mhm.
and then humanitarian aid and kind of more of like a human rights and advocacy program. Um and that went really, really well. And then I was lucky enough to be invited to last year's GCX, where we raised crazy amount of money.
And let me stop you there. What is GCX? So if people have never heard of it before.
So GCX is the Gaming Community Expo. It was founded under kind of the premise of Destiny and that community, under the name of Guardian Con. It has since been renamed, but the core value is the same. It is a week-long charity marathon leading up to an in-person event. This year it was in August. So it is a week-long marathon of a bunch of awesome creators, who raise money for St Jude, and then you get to meet up and celebrate and raise more money in person, and it is just this culmination of good and happiness and hope, and just it is such a positive experience, and if you can go, I recommend going. If not, watch the marathon.
Excellent. And now, so how did you get involved in GCX? What was your sort of, because you played Destiny, you that's how you sort of heard about the con originally?
I heard about it through Dr. Lupo's
Yeah.
community. And then Mrs. Dr. Lupo asked me for last year's charity marathon, and that was like a staring at my phone, not believing it for a while.
Wow.
Um, I think I set my goal that year for like $1,600, but it was for I think it was a milestone to reach like 20,000 as a community raise.
Yeah.
Like it was a kind of a significant number, and we raised 20,000.
Wow.
And we did that in that I since I was the newbie, I got the 3 well,
The 2
4
a.m. or
a.m.
oh, okay.
4 a.m. to 8 a.m. block.
Yeah.
So but thankfully it was right before Lupo went on. So I was the next to last block.
Yeah.
But still I was the graveyard shift, you
Hey,
know?
it's
So
no
I'm like, God, if
laughing
we
matter how
raise
much you made. That was
yeah.
amazing.
So if we raise $1,600, I'm like, that's incredible when 90% of normal functioning humans are asleep.
Right.
But of course, my amazing community set their alarms for 3 in the morning or whatever, and came and showed up, and we raised
It's
$20,000 then,
amazing.
which was crazy. And then yeah, this year we raised, oh God, $22,000. I'm looking on my thing right now. I think so. I have all my $21,669. So over 2 GCXs, we have raised $42,000. So
So that first time you did it, you disconnected. What were your emotions? Like, holy crap.
so it was funny because my now fiance was here with me because
Hmm.
we were going to the in-person GCX, and that was so I ended stream at 7 a.m. Central Time, and we drove down to Florida that night.
Oh my word.
So it was, and like we were on, I mean, that was like a 13-hour drive, so we were getting ready to move
Yeah.
as soon as I ended stream. But I remember just kind of looking at him and being like, I just need a minute. Like, and it was just sitting here and just being like, huh. Like, and then you start thinking about what $20,000 looks like. And then
Uh-huh.
I'm like, even in my head, I'm thinking, I'm like, you see those movies with all the ones packed into like bands, and you're
Right.
like,
Yeah.
how many of those would be there for
That was
$20,000?
me and my community.
Yeah. So it was just a lot of like, oh my God, that's a lot of money. And then of course tears, and then more
Yes.
tears at GCX. um,
No, but at what
it-
point did you call your mom and say, Mom, guess what?
so my mom is the most wonderful human on the whole planet, and she watches almost all of my streams
Oh,
and donates to every one of my charity streams, so she already knew.
oh, okay.
By the time I had got out of my disassociation of freak out, I already had like a missed call or text from her saying
Yeah.
like, "I'm so proud of you." So immediately, but it was because she was even quicker. She's absolutely wonderful. She may have been confused early on what exactly it was, but
Yes.
she has supported ever since.
Oh, that's
Especially now
fantastic.
that it has brought me best friends into fiancé. So
Yeah.
she can hardly argue the significance, that's for sure.
And now, do your coworkers know that you're this gamer, content creator person raising money for where you all work?
Um, Very few.
Yeah.
I try to keep, Brianna the St. Jude employee and all-time Brianna the gamer separately, both for um like ease of kind of navigating
Mm-hmm.
that because there are obviously certain things that I can't talk about
Yeah.
or 'cause I'm not speaking for the hospital.
Right.
Um Very few do and they love it. My immediate team in my sickle cell research, they know.
Yeah.
And it's always funny cuz they'll be like, "What cool thing did you do this weekend?" And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't do anything. I just played games all weekend." But um
Oh,
yeah, they're wonderful. They're always like, "We don't know really how to work it, but send us a link or
yeah.
something." So, um, they're very, very supportive, and it has been kind of weird because I started charity stuff well before I started working at St. Jude, so
Yeah.
it's like it feels weird to raise money for doing research at a place that I do research. So,
Exactly. Yeah. But it's
but it's
amazing, though. It really is amazing.
yeah, it's an honor. It definitely and that's the best way to put it is it's crazy that I get to do this.
Yeah. And now, what advice would you give to somebody who's thinking about turning their platform and raise money for a charitable cause?
So it's funny that you ask that because almost verbatim, that is, I was lucky to be on a Twitch patch notes thing at the St. Jude summit this past April,
Mm-hmm.
and they asked me almost the exact same thing,
Ah.
and it was one of my favorite kind of analogies that I was ever able to think about. So in Destiny 2, in the Glassway strike, uh, Ghost is talking to the Elsie Bray, and he's saying there's no use quantifying the help that you give. Any that you give is enough. And I think that holds a lot of people back whenever they want to jump into charity streams.
Mm-hmm.
Even I spent 6 months building a community before I felt comfortable doing it. Um, it it doesn't have to be this crazy $2,000 first stream.
Right.
Again, if you raise that $100, that's still more than what you contributed yesterday.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, and I think that whole like, oh, I need to move mountains mindset, we all fall victim to it. You don't. Just start moving a few rocks.
Yep.
Every avalanche starts somewhere. So just start. Just begin. Um Things pick up pretty quickly the second that you start to say that you are open and willing to go through charitable endeavors. People start reaching out and you start to find causes
Mm-hmm.
and ways to raise money. There's no shortage of need
Yep.
for various causes. So pick one that sets your soul on fire and go for it.
Yep. And what's amazing though is all of these different creators and their communities and the money they're raising for all sorts of charities, but especially St. Jude's when you're raising millions of dollars, or over on the Tarkov side we have Pestily who's one year he pulled $2 million for a hospital down a children's hospital in Australia. It's just so amazing to see.
Yeah, it's really cool because I know that these people are good people, but it's just so cool to say it's not enough, or for them to say it's not enough to know that I'm a good person. I want to do good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the best thing that you can do with your time.
Yeah.
Is to dedicate your time and your platform to doing more.
Yeah, absolutely. So now with GCX or Twitch cons, I ask this for a lot of people who've come on, is like when you go to these events, you're there so almost in like a two roles. One, you're the streamer who's been like, now you've got your community looking at you. It's like, oh, cool, I get, meet Brianna. But then you turn this way and there's like the people you've been admiring, like the Lupos or the pool sharks, Ames and things like that. It's like, again, something that nothing can prepare you for that.
Yeah, and the shift between last GCX 2022 and this GCX was tremendous. I I felt like I had this like packed schedule of I I was able to do the participate in the keynote, speak in the keynote with Dr. Lupo and the whole Build Against Cancer crew.
Yeah.
Um and then immediately that day I was in the G1 Destiny PvP tournament, which was I got bullied. But like I was a team captain, so then I had to run and go to that draft, and then I'm meeting people and I'm talking to people and I'm taking pictures with people, and then I'm like, oh, I haven't eaten since last night's dinner, and then it's just like it becomes this super crazy just tornado of excitement. And I mean, add on to the fact that the day before I got engaged, so it's just this so many people are coming up and saying congratulations, and I'm like, thank you, what's your name? Like, it's just this like crazy tornado of like, I have no idea why you know me, but hi, it's so nice to know you now. But
Oh,
yeah, and then also being like, oh yeah, I want a picture with that guy.
yeah.
um and this was kind of the first year that luckily I had made some connections, especially with some Destiny creators prior, whether
Hmm.
that was from them rating me or from me being in their community or from like Leopard is one of my favorite streamers of all time. Um and I was able to meet him at the St. Jude Play Live Summit a few months earlier, so it was kind of nice like that connection had already been made. But yeah, it's like this living in two worlds of, "Oh, you want a picture with me or you want me to take the picture?" And they're like, "Picture with you." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Sure."
Yeah. Oh,
But also wanting to go get that picture myself
yeah.
with somebody. And also wanting to make time for friends. And that's why I was so grateful with the Airbnb that we had,
Hmm.
just to kind of have a home base at the end of the night. And we stayed, so the con this year was Friday and Saturday. So we stayed until Monday. So all day Sunday was just our little Airbnb group. And it was drinking games and playing Smash Brothers and Mario Kart and just hanging out and just being
Yeah.
buds on the couch, which was a lot of
Awesome.
fun.
Now you mentioned build against cancer. So I've had Fab, Pool Shark, Ames, and Brick and Nick from the from
Mhm.
all of them, and just hearing their stories. They're all wonderful people, and now you're part of that crew, and it's just thank you for hopping on and doing this.
Of course. Yeah, those are some of the best people on the planet that I am super lucky and still kind of blown away that I get to call them friends at this point, you know? So I am super, super happy to be in that little, gaggle of
Yeah.
crazy, wonderful humans.
So now from who would have thought hitting that go live button you would have done all these wonderful things for charity and meeting the people you have, and not to mention your fiance.
Yeah, yeah, I it still doesn't really like we're still blown away by it and it's been 4 years,
Yeah.
right? Especially so we met in July of 2019 and it was just DMs and Discord calls and stuff like that. And I was in my master's program at the time and it was just kind of like, oh, whenever I graduate or whenever I have a lull, I'll come and visit you. And then March of 2020, the
Mm-hmm.
US Canada border shut
Yep.
down for 17 months.
Yep.
So we got very good at doing this basically and just talking, sharing screens, watching Netflix. We
Yep.
used to have a weekly like we're gonna pick a dish and both cook it,
Oh,
and then that
nice.
that was like our dinner date. We got very good at talking
Yep.
because what else? And the border opened end of August of 2021, and I went to see him for the first time,
Wow.
and
Now,
we've
what
been
was that
doing
like? Were you nervous? Like, you've had all these hours of spending on video, but now here it is.
it was of course it was nerve-wracking, but no more nerve-wracking than going to see friends and stuff
Yeah.
because I mean, I knew him better at that point than I had known most people in my life,
Yeah.
because again, we had nothing to do but get to know each other, and that has made for a really wonderful relationship at this point, which is clearly a good sign considering we're getting married in a year and a half.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
Uh,
it's been you know 4 years of knowing each other and over 2 of making the
Yeah.
trip back and forth, and it is a monster of a trip. It is, um, about 24 hours of travel and multiple flights, and,
Mm-hmm.
it's not an easy long distance by any means. It's not like
No.
it's just a 2-hour flight. Not that that's even easy, but, it's an undertaking.
Absolutely, yeah. It's an adventure and a roll of the dice often, especially with flights these days.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and as much as I love Canada, flying through Canada is the worst experience ever.
The customs.
So,
Mm-hmm.
oh my god. So it's always like am I gonna get stuck here overnight?
Are
We'll
you gonna miss a
see.
flight? Yeah. No, I'm with you. Like, when I was living in Canada, my wife was working in the States. I've missed a few flights just because customs wanted to do what customs do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm very anxious for that to be over, but unfortunately we have quite a
Yes.
bit of time left until that can happen.
Yeah. And I totally feel your pain with the whole COVID thing because all of our families in Canada. So for those
Yeah.
17 months, we couldn't see, I couldn't see my parents. The kids couldn't see their grandparents. And oh, it's just, yeah, and then when it
And it was
opened, it was painful.
Yeah, and it was so drawn out of I have actually this really admittedly this very beautiful like 2-minute long kind of our journey up until this point video. And I just had screenshot after screenshot of like the Google articles of, well, they're talking about opening it up in June, and then okay, it's extended until July, and then okay, it's extended, and it was just 17 months of just
Yeah.
holding your breath, hoping that the next article would say, "Okay, it's opening up."
Yeah.
Uh, and it was probably 6 of those months was just month by month hoping that I could I would see some good news on the website.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I remember getting the Google News update that says like border set to open August something and being like, "Oh, that's somebody's tricking me.
Right.
It's not
Yeah.
real." Um,
And then
so
having the
yeah, it's been
the app on your phone. Oh God, all those
yeah.
painful things. Yes.
Oh, it was the things we do for love.
So now for the proposal, did you have any idea it was happening? So you said it happened at GCX?
It did. I had suspicions.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to Universal the a couple days prior because since we try and pack everything in that we possibly can each visit since
Yeah.
we only go to see each other every 4 to 6 months. So usually we do like 2 or 3 weeks best we can. So we went down to Universal, um, and Harry Potter has been like a part of my life for my entire life. My mom I grew up with my mom reading the books to me.
Yeah.
Um, so we went to Harry Potter World. The very, very first day, we, got in and went straight to Olivanders to get our
Mm-hmm.
wands and
Yes.
stuff like that. And everything that I had read, they're gonna choose a kid. Of course they are. But sure, whatever. Choose the kid. I get it. But the little part of me is like, choose me. It's my childhood.
Right.
But, so we go in. We're the first group in. It's just us and a family of like 4
Yeah.
with a little kid. And so of course in the ceremony they have the little boy come up, and it was wonderful. I cry a lot, like happy cry. So I am like just ugly sobbing to start the day watching this whole thing happen
Yeah.
around. Um so he says like, "Okay, go ahead and move on to the next room. You guys can go and buy your wands." And the wand maker stops us, just
Oh.
me and Evan, my fiance, and says, "Are you guys buying wands today?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Okay, come here." And he did the whole scenario for just us
Yeah.
and gave us matching wands, like with matching dragon heartstring, and gave us this beautiful speech of like, as long as you two are loyal to each other, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I had this, like, it was like a chill down my back of like, is he gonna propose right now? Like, and he didn't, but I'm like, if you're looking for a sign, that was it. Um, I come to find out later that the ring was in his pocket at the time,
Oh.
but he had already had a plan,
Yeah.
which is how he ended up. But he brought it just in case. I'm like, that was the just in case there,
Yeah.
buddy. And then now I still tease him because we rode rides with the
Oh my
ring in his
God.
pocket, and we we got on this one, and I had my phone in my hand, and I didn't have any like girls don't get nice pockets. So
Right.
I'm like holding my phone and she says, "You can't have your phone in your hand." So I just like shove my phone in his pocket as
Yeah.
we're sitting there. It was the pocket with the ring in
Oh
it.
my God.
And I was like, "Oh my God, did you almost pass out?" He was like, "I literally didn't breathe the entire time." But
Oh,
I love, the all jokes aside of that being the sign, I told him early on, I was like, "I don't have really any stipulations for a proposal. Just do it if you can do it when we're around friends and we can celebrate and,
yeah.
make it a really fun." So he had that in his mind of that was what I wanted,
Yeah.
which I love him for because I told him that forever ago.
Yeah.
Um, so the Thursday before GCX, our Airbnb crew went and did an escape room, which was a lot of fun. It's hilarious. These are people that I've figured out like day one Destiny raids with and like
Hmm.
all of these mechanics and stuff. So to do an in-person escape room was kind of like an IRL Destiny raid. Um, so we go back to the Airbnb. We were going to change and then head to the Lupo meetup. And there were four of our friends in the Airbnb waiting for us. They gave them like the code. So scared the shit out of me. And I was like, "Oh, that's my surprise. Thank you so much." And in the whole like going around saying hi to everybody, I turn around and he's down on one knee. And
Oh,
and then immediately they get out like champagne and that was what they were there for. So that 100% was what I wanted. But I'm like, "Oh my God, you had the ring in your
Olivanders.
pocket?"
Yeah.
Oh my God. And he was like, "The universe was telling me something." I was like, "Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
universe was."
Uh, but yeah, Ollivander. So my daughter was 13. We went there at the time, and she huge Harry Potter fan. We had to like pace out the books because she was advancing so far that like a 13-year-old shouldn't be reading the Deathly Hollows. Like you're like, oh my God.
Right.
But when we got to Ollivander, she got picked. I was like, oh, this is so
Oh,
cool. And then as we're leaving, it's like, oh, you got to buy the wand. You mean she's the chosen one? She's not going to get the wand for free. But yes,
yeah, it was something. It was,
yeah,
I mean, I just ugly crying to start the day. Um, so that was a
excellent.
really, really good omen for, I guess, a good life
Yeah.
ahead.
And now does he stream?
He does. He
And
does.
what's
He
his name?
actually Winter's Wolf Cry is his
Okay.
name. He actually started on Tarkov. He hasn't played in quite a bit, but now he's kind of on like a New World, Starfield,
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate. But yeah, he helped me learn Tarkov. He put up with me while I was learning mouse and keyboard, which was something. Yeah, he is where I got all of my Tarkov knowledge from.
Excellent. Oh. All right. So, when you disconnect, you're not working at the hospital. You're not traveling anywhere. What are you doing away from the computer?
Reading,
Yeah.
probably. I love reading. I love crafting. I have my little Cricut that I like to craft things with. Um, I I watch a lot of anime, or I used to. I honestly don't have a lot of time for anything beyond working, streaming, and reading.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, if I'm not traveling, I'm probably reading way too late into the night and regretting it the next morning when I have to do it all over again. But
Oh. So what's on the what books do should people look out for? Keep an eye out for it. Any good recommendations?
I'm definitely into like kind of the fantasy genre. So there is A Court of Thorns and Roses is a 5-book series that's intertwined in a soon to be 3-book series and an 8-book series. So it is this crazy multiverse of a world. But it has been absolutely wonderful. Um, Fourth Wing is a book that just came out. It is
Mm-hmm.
super cool with dragons and fantasy and magic and all of this. It's the first book of what's going to be a 5-book series. And I'm going to make a big claim between the two of these. If so ACOTAR is the acronym for A Court
Mm-hmm.
of Thorns and Roses. If they slowly got picked up by Hulu, but people are suspecting that that's getting changed around a little bit. But if either one of these series gets picked up by HBO, I think that it could be better than Game of Thrones
Oh.
in terms of reach. It just kind of has that pull of like I think that it could be the next, Game of Thrones level of people are tuning in every Sunday
Oh,
to
wow.
watch it type deal.
All right, there's a prediction.
Or it flops and I never get a live action of it
There we
and
go.
it just has to live in my brain. But,
Uh, all
but yeah.
right. Any upcoming events you're looking forward to, or people should keep an eye out for?
So once upon a time we started what's called Drinkstiny on my channel. And it's where we choose an exotic weapon in Destiny and model a drink after it, a cocktail after it. And then we all meet up and play with that weapon and drink that drink. So for example, there's an SMG called Risk Runner that's like blue and electric. So we did an electric blue lemonade.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
and then we all used that weapon and went and played, 6v6 PvP or did a raid or whatever it would be. That took a much larger hiatus than what I intended it to whenever I moved down to Memphis and life happened for a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. That is coming back. I told them once I finish my, 15 of 18 days traveling, then that'll be the plan. But yeah, other than that, just kind of putting my head down and getting caught back up with streams. I feel I have been neglecting the community for the past couple weeks, rightfully so with travels. But
Yep.
yeah,
All
more
right.
Destiny, a lot of preparation for the new big expansion in the beginning of next year, and
All
just
right.
trying to keep doing what we're doing.
Perfect. All right. Well, hey, Brianna, thank you so much for doing this, and thank you for the charity work you do, and the research at St Jude's. It's been an awesome story to hear. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. But before you go, like every other guest is on, at the end of the pod, we ask them to suggest somebody that they think would have a good story that should come on the pod next. Who are you throwing
Uh,
under the
so
bus?
so totally biased is my fiance, obviously,
Yeah.
Winter's Wolf Cry. Um, Otherwise, if you are looking to stay in the Destiny 2 directory, I have so many wonderful friends of there is Bigdaddy Teej,
Okay.
Teej. He is very similarly just a wonderful human of just, spreading positivity and
Mm-hmm.
having a good time. There's Danfinity, which is infinity with a DA in
Yeah.
front of it. Um, and then there's Ando's Dan, Andows Dan. All three of those are like they're my comfort streamers when it comes to I want to go and watch Destiny. I don't want to play Destiny. I want to
Mm-hmm.
watch it and I want to listen to good vibes and nice people, and those are my
Perfect.
go-tos.
All right. Well, thank you again so much. It's been wonderful to meet you, and good
Of
luck with
course.
your streams and your charity events later this year.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.